All right, welcome to the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. Chris McPherson alongside former Eagles linebacker Ike Reese. And Ike, this is an unusual position for us doing the Postgame Show over the last year. The Eagles on the losing end of a 27-21 decision at the hand of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers got out to a 27-7 lead using explosive plays early in the third quarter. The Eagles showed a lot of fight to get back in the ball game, but in the end, it just wasn't enough, and the Eagles fall to 1-1 on the season. We're going to hear from head coach Doug Pederson and quarterback Nick Foles while their press conferences, as well as Mike Quick's exclusive one-on-one interview with the coach as well, coming up later on the show. But big picture here, Ike, we'll start with the offensive side of the ball. Just not enough explosion. All right, Tampa Bay was able to get some big plays starting right off the jump with Deshaun Jackson's 75-yard touchdown against Jalen Mills and Malcolm Jenkins, but the Eagles had to methodically move the ball throughout the course of the game. Thought Nick Foles played very well, but just not enough playmakers for him to get those chunk yards, and it seemed like the Eagles wanted to take a grinded-out approach, which worked through the first half until, once again, the Bucs struck with another 75-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick to O.J. Howard. Some poor tackling led to that big play there, and the Eagles were playing catch-up from there, falling behind 20-7 going into the halftime and losing 27-21.
Yeah, when the Eagles look back at this game, that's really what they're going to be kicking themselves about, Chris, is the big plays they gave up on defense. I thought offensively they did what they wanted to do. They know that they are lacking explosive players in this offense. You don't have Alshon Jeffrey. Jay Ajayi went out early. Kudos to him for being able to fight through that back issue, come back in there and try to tough it out to help this team. But just not enough explosive players. No Darren Sproles today. So when you know you don't have the ability to really score within 2 or 3 plays, you're going to have to move down the field methodically. And I thought the Eagles did that at times today. But when I look at this game, it really boils down to 2 plays. I mean, the first play of the game, you cannot give up a 75-yard touchdown pass to former Eagle Deshaun Jackson. You got to make the Bucs work to get the ball in the end zone. You know, Ryan Fitzpatrick has done a nice job the last 2 weeks, but just too many easy touchdowns for him. A one-play touchdown drive there. The Eagles get a little momentum back after the Corey Clement touchdown, and then the defense turns around and give up a one-play scoring drive to O.J. Howard due to poor tackling. You can't have that. This is too good of a defense. I'm pretty sure they're going to hold themselves accountable when it comes to that because they pride themselves on forcing teams to really work to put 6 points on the board. You may move the ball in between the 20s or in between the goal lines, but this team doesn't usually give up touchdowns from the defensive side. And to give up 2 one-play drives, I'm sure Jim Schwartz and his players, that's what they're going to look back at this game and think about all game is that, man, there's no way we should have given up one-play drives to this team had we just made them work. Who knows? You get a turnover. There were a couple times Tampa was moving the ball, and we came up with big turnovers. And that's what you have to do when you're playing against a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick. See if he can play mistake-free for 10 to 12 plays. You give him a score in one play, his confidence gets going. And that's what happened for this Bucs offense. They were riding high after putting up 48 points against the Saints on the road last week, and then you allow him to get comfortable by having easy scoring drives. The Eagles defense, I thought, didn't do their offense any favors. We knew the offense was shorthanded. You knew the offense. You're going to have to keep the points down in order to give yourself a chance. I thought this offense battled all day. I thought Nick battled all day. You had some guys contribute that you didn't necessarily think were going to contribute coming into the game. They fall short 6 points in this game. This is a game that was very winnable for them. You give the Bucs a chance to come out early on you. I guess you want to take something out of this game, a silver lining, is the fact that they played like champions and they didn't roll over. I'm talking about over 100 degrees out there down on the field. This team didn't give up. I saw players in the first half dropping like flies. You didn't know who was going to be left at the end of this game. Like I said, if there's any silver lining in this, is that this team didn't give up. That's the heart of a champion. There's some things they can learn from this moving on to next week. But this was a winnable game for them.
This was a winnable game, and a lot of fans are just going to say it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. Right there, when you saw the schedule come out, that was going to be a win for the Eagles. And that's, I think, going to be some of the disappointment there for fans right off the jump. And also the fact that this was a winnable game when it came down to the end. They knew going into this game that they had to stop those explosive playmakers. Tampa Bay had 9 plays of 20 yards or more in the pass game against New Orleans a week ago. The Eagles, they wanted to button that down after giving up 5 such plays to the Falcons in their Week 1 win. Well, the first play of the game, as we see, Deshaun Jackson against Jalen Mills. Malcolm Jenkins came down, seeming to defend the slant route, and then Jackson took off on the post, knowing probably that Jalen Mills had been, had trouble with double moves in the past. And unfortunately, Jackson got over the top. And once you're over the top, there's no help there. That was going to be an easy touchdown. But the defense buckled down after that point and seemed to settle in. And you felt like, okay, if the Eagles can get that touchdown back, which they did on the Corey Clement touchdown, a 15-yard run, you felt like the Eagles had them right where they wanted them. Okay, the defense was rolling. And then on the very next play, the first play from scrimmage after that touchdown, it's a pass play over the middle to O.J. Howard. Jordan Hicks had good coverage but wasn't able to make the tackle. Then Ronald Darby went to go for the strip instead of a tackle. And then after that, Howard was off to the race because Howard's a very athletic tight end, very fast, very much in a Zach Ertz mold, maybe even more athletic than Zach Ertz, but still able to take it to the house from there. And you just felt at that point from the defensive side, it's going to be so hard for the Eagles' offense to get back into it because they had to move the ball so methodically down the field. Again, kudos to Nick Foles because he took a pounding down there in the backfield today from the Bucs defenders. But overall, didn't make a lot of mistakes, was smart with the football, got the ball quickly when he had to. There just weren't enough playmakers to help him on the outside. And Ike, we were talking about this a little bit off camera. That's what's so concerning watching the Eagles' offense early in the season is the fact that there's not a lot of difference between this offense and the one at the end of the 2017 campaign when you didn't have Carson Wentz and players like that. But still, you didn't have Darren Sproles at that time either. Yet, there's not a lot of difference, but the explosion just isn't there. It just seems like it's very hard for this team to get going. You have Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, you don't have Jeffrey right now. You still have Zach Ertz. But those big plays just aren't as abundant as they were at the end of 2017.
Yeah, and they got to find their rhythm, right? As an offense, you got to be able to find those plays within the course of the game. You got to be able. They're not going to be there readily for you when you dial them up, but you're going to have to be able to find big plays in the game. Guys that can take, a 10-yard pass and go 20, 30, 40 yards. That's what you're sort of missing. We saw Nelson be able to do that with one of his long receptions the other day, but you need just a little more of that. And I'll tell you another thing that I think is hurting the offense a little bit. The running game isn't as consistent. A big part of this offensive success last year, especially in the postseason when they got things clicking, is that they were able to run the ball. And when you run the ball, you set up play action. And that's where Nick does his work. When he's able to put that ball in the belly of the running back, pull it out, whether it's an RPO or it's a play action roll pass, that's when Nick can get in the rhythm. I tell you, Nick is a little better on the move than most people will give him credit for. He can extend plays. He's not going to outrun guys, but he can extend plays if you get him outside the pocket. And I think that's sort of what they're missing. Inconsistent running the football. They ran it at times well today, but just wasn't as consistent with it. And here's the other thing. Penalties in the first half killed them. Far too many instances where they were behind the chains, first and 15.
First and 30.
First and 30. Well, that's unheard of.
Doug doesn't have a play call for first and 30.
I think there was a second and 40 or first and 40. I mean, that down and distance is unheard of, and that's difficult to find any rhythm. Doug can look at that play chart all he wants to. He knows there are no plays on that play chart to convert when it's first and 40. So penalties early in the game, I thought they killed the drives for the offense. I thought they settled down. And in the second half, they were a much better offense in the second half than they were in the first half. Just couldn't get key stops at the right time from the defense. Even that final touchdown to Nelson Aguilar, that's a great drive there that was started by the defense. Malcolm Jenkins punching the ball out from Mike Evans when they got a chance to go down and extend their drive. That's a great throw to Nelson Aguilar in the end zone. But now we need the defense to get a 3 and out, get a stop, to get the ball back to the offense with a little time on the clock.
And the Bucs were able to get a couple first downs, not one, but a couple first downs. They pretty much drain the clock and leave the Eagles with the first and 10 situation inside their 20-yard line. And
like
just
18 seconds to go or something.
They didn't have a chance with no timeouts at that point there. You talked about the miscues. Again, second week in a row where the opposing team gets an early star on them. Last week, at least they were able to hold Atlanta to the field goal. This time around, not as lucky, obviously, with the Jackson touchdown. Corey Clement had a big punt return in the first half that was brought back due to a Josh Perkins blocking the back penalty. You had a first down run by Clement where you lost yards because Nelson Aguilar had an illegal block on it.
Yeah.
You had a big game by Mike Wallace that was wiped out by a Jason Peters penalty. So
those are the ones that hurt you, man.
yeah, they kill the drives. That's the biggest thing and especially in a game like this where you knew that you didn't have to be perfect on offense, but there wasn't that huge margin for error. Those little things will add up over the course of the game to put you in a bad situation there. What did you think of the defenses scheming those Bucs receivers? Because you go from top to bottom, and we saw how talented they are, from Deshaun obviously to Mike Evans to Chris Godwin had a touchdown pass as well, and they have the 2 tight ends with Howard and Brait. What did you think of the defense and the way that they were playing mostly off coverage and allowing Fitzpatrick to kind of dink and dunk his way until those big plays over the top were available?
It's a difficult way to live. It just is. If you're not going to get up and challenge receivers in this league, you're going to give them free releases and then hope you can come up and make the tackle. When you have skill position players like a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Deshaun Jackson's, even O.J. Howard. I mean, that was really just a 10-yard pass that he wound up taking, 70 yards?
75 yards.
For a touchdown. You just can't have that. But those are the type of skill position players that the Bucs have. And I think what it says is there's a little bit of lack of confidence, I think, from the individual players when you don't want to get up there and challenge these guys at the line of scrimmage, when you're trying to keep from getting beat over the top. We're going to have to figure out a way to challenge some of these guys because there are no days off. There are no Sundays off in the NFL when it comes to playing defensive back. Just about every team has go-to guys that can make plays. The wide receiver position has become the most athletic, the best athletes on the field in today's NFL. And when you allow these guys free releases and able to catch the ball, I mean, Deshaun Jackson catching the ball in the open field, that's a punt return to him. So, it's going to be hard to bring him down one-on-one. Even a guy like Mike Evans, great job by Malcolm Jenkins being able to strip the ball from him. Well, most times Mike Evans is going to make a guy miss, and then he's out the door for a big play. So, I mean, it's something that we've got to adjust to. We saw it last week, gave up a lot of plays underneath to Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. But I'll tell you, Chris, you can't make a living in this league trying to play with your back to the goal line. Meaning that if you just want to keep guys in front of you and we're going to get to the red zone and try to play stout defense then and see if we can keep them out, it's going to be difficult to do, man. Everybody isn't Steve Sarkisian. You get these guys multiple opportunities down the red zone, they're going to come up with schemes to get their best players free. And when you face a team like the Bucs, who do you double? I mean, who are you trying to take away? Whatever guy
you don't even have to double. Look at the Mike Evans touchdown. It was against Jalen Mills. It was a two-way go. He just took the slant. Easy pitch and catch right there.
Well,
Chris Godwin got wide open.
As a defense, if you try to key in on one of these guys, then you're leaving single coverage for somebody else. And with this offense that the Bucs have, they're just too skilled. And if you can't get to Ryan Fitzpatrick and rattle him, make him throw errant passes, he was comfortable back there today. I mean, he had time to throw the ball just like he did last week against New Orleans. And I know we make fun of Fitzmagic, but he's a 36-year-old that's seen a whole lot, that started a lot of football games. They're playing at home. He's comfortable. And that's pretty much what that boiled down to. You couldn't get to him. I mean, 80% completion percentage, that's unheard of.
I didn't realize it was that high.
80%.
I knew the 400 yards, 4 touchdowns once again.
Wow. And the interception wasn't even his fault.
It was a bobble. Yeah. The ball gets knocked into the air. And you were looking for a play like that to turn the tide.
Yeah.
I thought the pass rush was good in the first half. But it seemed like, especially after the Bucs got that second touchdown from O.J. Howard, it seemed like that those guys were wearing down. The heat's obviously going to play a factor. You could be rotating guys in and out, but you need the star players. You need Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, those guys to step up. And those guys are going to be wearing down throughout the course of the game because of that heat, no matter how good a rotation you have. So I felt like that if they weren't going to bring the blitz, which they tried at times, but Fitzpatrick, to his credit, understanding what defenses are going to try to do to him, they were able to block it up nicely, and he was able to find the open receiver. I felt like that the strategy there was they needed to win up front with the front four. They did so early on. They at least did so in the run game to make it so that they weren't two-dimensional from that standpoint. But nonetheless, though, relying on that four-man pass rush, it wasn't going to pay off dividends when the Bucs are willing to keep an extra blocker in to make sure that they get. I mean, there were some plays. It was a two-man route. I think the opening play was a two-man route.
Yeah.
It was a two-man route. It was just Evans and Jackson. But when you have two skilled position players like that, it can work for you.
And here's the thing that the Eagles defense and Jim Schwartz, they're going to have to come to realize when you're facing teams, because there's such a great reputation with the front 8 of this defense. teams aren't going to wait until they are in obvious passing situations to try to take their shots. They're going to take their shots on first down. When you think we're going to run the football, we're going to get in base personnel, we're going to max protect, and then we're going to run a two-man route. That was the first play of the game. That was a run personnel offense for Tampa, and true to form, they had a play action. You get Malcolm jumping up, thinking it's going to be a run. You got two backs in there, you got two receivers, and you got a tight end. And next thing you know, that's really a max protection formation, and they really just want to see who can they get, Mike Evans on a crossing route or Deshaun Jackson going deep in the post. And so because of how good their defensive front is, teams aren't going to let you dictate to when you can come after their quarterback. They're going to try to hit you first, and that's typically going to come on first down. Now, if you get them in an obvious passing situation, then they have to throw the ball, but they want to try to catch this Eagles defense by surprise by throwing the ball on first down and taking their shots on first down.
What's interesting, Ike, is, and we were talking about this a little bit before off camera, you go back to end of last season, the road games, at New York at the end of the season. You go back to the Super Bowl, against New England. You look at the defense here today. The defense on the road just isn't as stout as it is at home.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to it, but for whatever reason, you can't really find a common thread between all the teams. I mean, all teams, you can't really say that with the offenses are explosive. They certainly all have playmakers, but outside of that, it's bizarre to see how good and how dominant this defense can be at home, like we saw in the season opener against Atlanta, only to come back here and you're giving up, 436 yards, but again, 393 of them through the air.
Yeah, you look at the tail of the tape there, man. I mean, they dominated in time of possession. Tampa Bay was basically one-dimensional today, throwing the ball. I mean, when they look at this tail of the tape, this stat sheet after the game, they're going to be kicking themselves because it's going to come back to two plays. It's going to come back to the first play of the game and then the first play after you had gotten yourself back into the game with the Corey Clement touchdown, the big touchdown to O.J. Howard. I mean, really, that's the difference in the ball game today. I mean, that's the difference in the ball game today is those two big plays. I look at that tail of the tape and I'm saying, well, the Eagles played well enough to win this game, with the exception of two plays. And that's the difference in the NFL. It normally isn't a huge gap between the talent from either teams when you're facing each other. It's usually a couple plays that either the other team hits on and you miss on. That's the difference between you winning and losing the ball game.
Going back to that time of possession there, again, 35, almost 36 minutes there for the Eagles. I thought that would work in their advantage.
Yes.
I was thinking the way the offense was moving the ball methodically, I thought they could wear down that Bucs defensive line, but at the end of the game, Jason Pierre-Paul was still making plays. Bo Allen had to come out with a foot injury, but Gerald McCoy had a big sack late. I was hoping that this offensive line for the Eagles would be able to run the defensive line of the Bucs into the ground, knowing that they don't have the depth, especially from the pass rusher standpoint, and they would be able to take advantage there. But just because they had to play catch-up so frequently and get those points quickly, it just wasn't made to be.
Yeah, Doug looks at that and he says, well, we did what we wanted to do offensively. We'll take this. Of course, you got to have Jake Elliott. You got to make your field goals.
Certainly.
You got to knock those in. But other than that, when the Eagles got down to the scoring area, they scored. They typically scored. So I thought offensively you did what you wanted to do. We just didn't do, in my opinion, what we wanted to do defensively. You got to make Tampa drive that ball 10, 12 plays, eat up some of that clock. And the reason why you want to do that, because the likelihood of a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick making a mistake within those 12 plays, it increases. But if you just allow him to score on one-play drives, his work is done. It's easy work for him. So I thought the defense came up a little bit short today, although they made some big plays to help us get back in the game. I just think those two plays, man, when they get on that plane headed back up north here to Philly, they're going to think about those two plays more than anything, because everything else, in my opinion, was what I thought it was going to be. Tampa is a good football team when Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't a turnover machine. You don't go to New Orleans and put up 48 points on Drew Brees and the Saints without being a good team. They have skill position players, very explosive, but if the quarterback isn't going to be made to feel uncomfortable in the pocket, then you're going to have a long day, especially on the road in his house and in that type of heat out there.
Exactly. The one drive that stood out to me, outside of the big explosive plays, was the one late in the first half where Chris Godwin got the 8-yard touchdown reception. Fitzpatrick was 5 of 5 on that drive. It was 6 plays. It was very easy. And that's where you started wondering, did the defense have enough fight left in it to be able to come back in this ball game? That's where you sort of started to say to yourself, well, here's a situation where they just got the explosive play touchdown. Offense doesn't muster anything. Do we have to be perfect? I think the defense knew early in the season with the injuries on the offensive side of the ball that they would have to be much better. So let's find out what the coach has to say. Let's send it to Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida.
A lot of disappointed guys, quite honestly. A lot of self-inflicted wounds today. Obviously got beat. We got to take the loss. We got to learn from it. But I try to preach to our guys that a lot of times it's our execution. It's what we do, and that really matters. And we weren't successful in that area today. So a lot of dejected players, but there's a lot of football left, and we'll get it fixed on the next couple of days and get ready for next week. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's just got to look at the tape and see what happened. I mean, we just got to make sure we're in position to make those plays and be ready for it, especially early in a football game. And I won't speculate on it until I see the film, obviously, and see who we need to correct.
Early in that game, you don't have Alshon to start. You lose Mike for a while, and then Jay goes down for a little bit. Did it feel like you were just missing some firepower that you need to get the offense going?
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you're down a couple of bodies, it affects you offensively. It tweaks your plan a little bit, but we got confidence in the other guys to step in and we rely a little bit more on the run game and some of the things there. But the thing was, we kept going backwards. The whole first half, we weren't staying ahead of the sticks. We were getting penalties and lost yardage on first or second down and just playing from behind a lot. So, the injuries hurt, but again, it's self-inflicted.
Do you think it affected Nicole's personnel?
No, I mean, he's worked with those guys before, but at the same time, we've got to do, coaches and players offensively, we got to do our job, make sure that we're putting these guys in position to be successful, and obviously by play call, play design that starts with me, and making sure that the plays that with the guys that go in the game that they can handle. So it's not on one person.
So on fourth downs, you'll hear the percentage in your headset, and then you'll kind of go off of maybe gut thereafter or how the offense is running. What did you hear on the 4th and 4 call in your headset as far as the percentage goes, and then what was your decision?
I was going for it anyway, regardless of percentages. We were plus 50. I mean, I was going for it. I felt we had a little momentum on that drive, and felt confident that we were going to get the first down. So I was going for that one.
A little more than 3 minutes left in the first half. It was 3rd and 11. You handed off to Small. What was the decision there? Left 3:23 left before the first half. 3rd and 11. You guys were on your own end. You handed off to Small. You picked up 6 yards. And you guys climbed. What was the decision draw there, right? Was it draw?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like the defense was going to be, soft, cover 2-ish, and 5-man box, and chance to maybe break a run. I guess. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
The slow starts on the offensive side, what do you attribute that to?
Slow starts. Gosh, good question. It's I don't know. It's an area that we got to address the next couple of days. Got to fix it moving forward. It's every man has to look at themselves, me included, and start with that and make sure that we're ready to go.
They were lethal on first down, Doug. I mean, not just the 2 75-yard touchdowns, but just a number of big plays on first down. Anything before looking at the film that you can point to?
Well, that's what we talked about all week. We had like 5+ 20-yard gains, I think, in the Atlanta game, and against our defense, and then the couple today. And we talk about eliminating the big play, and then conversely, offensively, we try to create the big play, and big plays can come either in the run game or the passing game. And again, offensively, we were just so far behind, in the first half, just with penalties or lost yardage that it's tough. And you want to be able to, on first or second down, be able to shoot the ball down the field and do some things that way. But again, we just gotta look at it, man. We just gotta look at it, each person, man to man, and just own the own this game and move on.
Doug, are you expecting Wentz for next week?
I'll talk about that later this week.
It seemed like we saw a lot more Josh Perkins than Dallas Goedert. What went into that decision?
Well, a lot of times, with the tight end situation, some of it's by game plan. And then when we lose some receivers, we start having to use the second or third tight end, and then plus it's a complex thing because it starts moving bodies around, and without getting real specific with the game plan, because obviously you don't know the game plan. Just one part that goes down, then you have to adjust everybody else. And a lot of times it's easier with Perk in the game. Dallas played, but at the same time, it didn't change our receivers on the outside. It kept those guys, sort of in their same spots. Again, you don't know, and this is not against you, but I'm just saying, without knowing the offense and the formations and the personnel that we have, it can be a chess match moving multiple parts on offense. Does that make sense?
Not really.
Yeah, I know. It's complicated because you don't know the plan. That's nothing against you. I'm just saying when you don't know the plan, the formations, where we move guys and have guys specific in the game plan, if one guy goes down, now it shuffles the whole thing. And so we can keep it real consistent by just moving one part and not many parts. I know, I just confused you more. Sorry.
We went through this last year, early in week 2 specifically in Kansas City. You guys were able to rebound in 9 straight and won the recent story. Will that be a teaching point on your guys? Even though this one stings, this one hurts, it is early, and we can learn from it and get better from it and look what you did last year with a similar group.
Yeah, and listen, I can't go back and relive those days because it's a new football team, new season. Now, we're going to learn from this, and we're going to be better. And I vowed to the team in there that we will get better. And obviously that starts with me. But, we do have to remember what we did a year ago. But at the same time, I'm not going to pull back anything, go back and start pulling out any kind of memories because new football team, new faces, and we got our own set of circumstances now to fix.
How much information did you get from?
When you said earlier that you'll talk more about Carson this week, does that mean that it's a consideration that he could return?
Yeah, I'll talk more about it probably tomorrow, probably.
I think you both without watching the film, just kind of based upon your first impression.
Yeah, I thought you saw his resiliency. I mean, he took some shots early and stayed in there and rebounded, made some nice throws, good decisions, led a couple nice drives. But again, we'll evaluate it and we'll see where he's at. And everybody's got to look at it and make corrections and move forward.
In Jason Pederson's case, what information did you get that kept it from going back to the game? Was the injury serious enough that?
Yeah, it was enough to keep him out. I didn't want to risk it any further with him in the game, and it was early enough to just if emergency situation if we needed to.
Did you try to go in and then come back out? It seemed like there were 2.
Yeah, there were a couple things I don't remember offhand. Okay. Oh. Yeah, we'll get back to Philly. We'll check on him again. Probably have an update for you tomorrow. Okay. Thanks.
All right, head coach Doug Pederson addressing the media at Raymond James Stadium. Obviously, a bunch of disappointed and dejected guys in the locker room. Went into a long explanation about why we saw a lot of Josh Perkins, who was very productive in the time out on the field. To me, just offers more of the receiver element, knows more about that facet of the offense at this point than Dallas Goedert, but we still expect to see plenty of him in the future. But I'm sure fans are going to be wondering, saying, this was a guy who shined in the summer, was good in the preseason, was your top draft pick in 2018. How can we see more of him when you need those playmakers, but you need someone who can work on the outside, especially with those very good linebackers in Quan Alexander and Levante David. So injury front, though, that's the big thing early on, and it happened very early in the game, too, where Jay Ajayi went down, came back in the second half and scored the touchdown. Mike Wallace had the one nice play but got injured. It was an ankle injury. He came out of the game, and then Jason Peters exited the game, and that's something you don't want to see, especially with the pass rushers that the Buccaneers have come into this matchup. But overall, I thought Big V acquitted himself nicely. He gave up the one sack early on there against Jason Pierre-Paul, but for the most part, he settled in. I thought it was more like what we saw from him in 2017, which, with Peters getting up there in age, you need that backup guy and Vaitai to be ready at all times. And I thought he did a better job today. I thought there were times where Foles had time in the pocket.
Oh, yeah.
He definitely had the time. The pass protection wasn't the issue. It was just he didn't have the playmakers to get open.
To get open. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. And when you're talking about Joshua Perkins getting the nod today, you know, Doug, if I can explain it in layman's terms, he's basically looking for one-on-one matchups that he can take advantage of. And so with a guy who's a former wide receiver, he feels like against speedy linebackers, Perkins is probably better suited to probably break free from one of those guys. So believe me, I had to look up the glossary and find out who Joshua Perkins was myself. But I don't know if Dallas Goedert could have did any better than 4 catches for 57 yards today. So, you know, I thought Perkins did a great job of coming in, filling in a tough situation on the road. Didn't really have any miscues out there except for maybe one. So I don't think that was the issue at all. I thought Doug hit it right on the head when he said shot themselves in the foot in the first half. That's basically what it boiled down to. Too many self-inflicted wounds. Talking about penalties, that stalled drives, even the Mike Wallace play where he made a nice move to get himself down the field. Not only does he get injured, it's a penalty on the play that brings it back. So to me, that's what the first half boiled down to. Just too many self-inflicted wounds to where you couldn't overcome them in the first half. Defense, I thought, settled down in between that first play that Deshaun had scored on.
The two explosive plays, basically.
The two explosive plays, basically. And I thought they had settled down. The second half, to me, it was a completely different second half. I thought the Eagles outplayed the Bucs in the second half, and the Bucs were really trying to hold on to win that game. You know, so that's something that this team will learn from. That's not an easy place to go down there and play when you look at the conditions, the weather, being down there, going up against a hot team. And here's the other thing I tried to preach all week, Chris, on my show. The Eagles are circled on everyone's calendar.
Of course.
That's on the schedule. You're the defending champions. And when you come to town, you're going to get the best shot from everyone. You just are. And when it doesn't look like you're at full strength, that gives the other team that much more confidence. So, you know, you're not going to be able to sneak up on anybody. And this team needs to get with the mindset that every time, especially when they go on the road, it's one thing at home because you have the energy of the crowd to sort of feed off of. But when you're on the road, you got to come in ready to play from the opening kickoff.
And you're not helping yourself by giving up that first play touchdown to Deshaun Jackson. That's the biggest thing is you figure if you could go out there, get that early score, kind of take the wind out of their sails, so to speak, down there at Raymond James Stadium, you would feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
But even still, they got to a point there in the first half after that Clement touchdown where you said, all right, if they can at least keep it close for halftime, they got the ball to start the second half, they had them right where they wanted them. Then they gave up the explosive play touchdown to O.J. Howard. They gave up the drive, the quick drive that ended with the Godwin touchdown.
And a missed field goal in there.
And a missed field goal in there, exactly. You thought you could get that going to halftime. That's where you just said to yourself, maybe it's not going to be our day. But they battled back at the end.
Yeah.
You know, that game at 27-7, that easily could have been, look, we've lost a number of key guys. They lost a number of key guys already. Let's make sure that we can get the guys back on the bus healthy and get them back to Philly in one piece. So now, on top of their game, as always, the Hall of Fame duo of Merrill Reese and Mike Quick. Thanks to Sports Radio 94 WIP, we bring you the highlights from the game, courtesy of Merrill Camp. thought it was 100 degrees down there in Tampa Bay today. Those two look calm, cool, and collected. Even Mike addressing the Merrill cam during the broadcast. See, he's savvy enough. He knows what's going on. So we're waiting to hear from quarterback Nick Foles in just a little bit. But to the point you made before about how every team has circled the Eagles on the calendar, to me, how it works in the Eagles' favor is when a team like Tampa that's trying to find itself gets ahead big in the second half like they did 27-7, they have to start thinking, are the Eagles going to come back?
Right.
And that's the thing. And after seeing what the Eagles pulled off last season, the Eagles have that intensity. They have that mentality to be able to fight back and come from behind. And when it started getting close, when it got to 27-21, the Bucs probably had to wonder, uh-oh, is this going to be a bad situation for us? So that at least can help the Eagles moving forward, having that mentality of knowing that, look, you can get up on us, but we're going to find a way to fight back, especially as guys are going to continue to come back to the offense later on as the season progresses, whether we see Carson Wentz next week against Indianapolis or not, whether it's Alshon Jeffrey back in the line, these guys are going to get healthy. And not that injuries are an excuse anymore, because it certainly wasn't for the Eagles last season. You've got to go out there with who you have and win with that team. But nonetheless, though, still, they have that air about themselves that because they are the defending champs, they are going to be a tough out no matter how big a lead you have on them at any point in the game.
Yeah, and the one thing that the Eagles have going in their favor, and this was really what almost cost the Bucs today, you can't run on this Eagles defense. I mean, 48 yards rushing for the Buccaneers today. They would have loved to be able to run the clock down on the Eagles, but they couldn't run the ball on the Eagles. The Eagles defensively did what they wanted to do as far as making Tampa one-dimensional. The only problem is that one dimension is really what hurt them today, which is defending the pass. And we're going to have to shore some things up in that secondary. We certainly have enough talent there in the secondary, but we got to figure out a way to challenge these wide receivers. Next week, you're going to have T.Y. Hilton coming in here next week. You got Eric Ebron at tight end, who's like another big wide receiver you're going to have to face next week, along with Andrew Luck. So if teams realize that you aren't going to let them run the football, they're going to just chuck it. They're going to just keep putting it up on you. And so we have to figure out a way to become better at defending the pass and not relying so much on our pass rush to get to the quarterback. We got to challenge these receivers at the line of scrimmage. We got to challenge these tight ends at the line of scrimmage. Bat balls away. Pretty much like they did last week when they needed to rise to the occasion against the Atlanta Falcons. That's what this secondary is going to have to do. It really handcuffs Jim Schwartz when he has to call defenses where your corners are playing off and you're giving guys a 10-yard cushion.
It's that bend but don't break mentality.
And you're not going to – offensive coordinators are too good in this league for you to survive that way. I mean, for Ryan Fitzpatrick to be able to throw for 400 yards today against this Eagles defense, that shouldn't happen. And I know the Saints defense isn't as good as the Eagles defense, but this is a pretty good Eagles defense. And to have Ryan Fitzpatrick have the plays that he had today, and I don't even know if he did so much to earn them other than, the two plays they got that was 150 yards. Yeah, he put it there. And his guys did the rest of the work. But, Jim Schwartz is going to be saying to himself, hey, look, especially on the O.J. Howard touchdown, I called the right defense. We got to come up and make the tackle.
Yeah.
It's one thing to give up a 10-yard, 15-yard pass and play. Okay, they get paid as well. You make the tackle, and you live to fight another day. But you can't let a 10-yard pass turn into a 75-yard touchdown. The first play of the game, hats off. I can't think of the other offensive coordinator for the
Todd Monken?
Yeah, Todd Monken.
Yeah.
Great play call from the opening play of the game. Hats off to him. But the rest of the game, I thought we did more of helping that Bucs offense than the Bucs offense out executing us on defense. The first play of the game, I'll give them credit for
It was just reminiscent of 2010, Monday night in Washington.
And that's what D-Jack does.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what D-Jack does.
And you know that going into it. It's like, I can tell you what you're going to do, but he still is able to do it anyway. You're not able to stop it.
He loves playing against the Eagles.
And he does. He does rise to the occasion against the Eagles and had everyone amped up for that part of it. Love to see Jalen Mills bounce back because over the summer and in the preseason, I thought he was fantastic. That ability to read and react to what the opposing receivers would do, the competitiveness that he brings out to the field, it just hasn't come through in these first two games. Now, of course, you're lining up mainly against Julio Jones and Deshaun Jackson, and that's going to happen. But as you mentioned, each and every week there's going to be a big playmaker to account for, and you can't get into a situation where they're just going to move T.Y. Hilton over to Mills' side and then match them up all the time and say, you know, Ronald Darby's better in coverage. We'll just keep it away from him and then go over with that matchup against Mills. Mills has to find a way to shore it up, and I think he has the confidence and the ability to do so, but they're going to have to figure a way to mask that moving forward.
Yeah, I tell you, listen, I love Jalen Mills, and he certainly is a key part to our success. He was last year. He will be moving forward. And far be it from me to try to be a coach and start moving guys around, making personnel decisions, but you got to think about Sidney Jones on the outside. I mean, Sidney Jones is he's faster. He's a much better athlete than Jalen Mills. I mean, Sidney Jones was a top 10 pick if he's not injured going into the draft last year. And there's a reason for that, because he has all the requisite skills you need to be a number one corner in this league. You got to have speed. You got to have recovery speed. You got to have athleticism. Most importantly, you got to have confidence that you can go up to the line of scrimmage and challenge guys in a bump and run situation. And if they beat you off the line of scrimmage, you have to have the ability to recover. And so, you know, I don't expect it to happen as recent as next week, but I mean, you're talking 2 weeks in a row where you got a corner who isn't necessarily challenging the receivers at the line of scrimmage and more or less playing off and then hoping to come up and make the tackle. And what happens is that when Jalen sees that slant come, he so desperately wants to come up and make the tackle. Now they're hitting with a double move. So, you know, and I think right now, and this is surprising to say about a guy like Jalen Mills, his confidence may be lacking a little bit right now. You're talking about back-to-back weeks where you're caught out there on the island and a touchdown is given up. Now, you got to have a short memory in this league as a corner in order to be successful, because the other guys get paid as well and they're going to make plays. But I just don't see the Mills that I saw in the middle of last year when I was touting him to be a Pro Bowl corner. When you looked at weeks 4 through weeks 8 last year, when he was just all over everybody that he had to come up against. He needs to get back to playing with that confidence, playing with that swagger. He's playing on his heels too much, and he's allowing the offense to dictate how he plays, as opposed to saying, I'm going to come up and I'm going to take away one thing. You may beat me with something else, but you're not beating me with this. Right now, he's allowing a two-way go for these guys.
You can't win.
And it's difficult to win that way, especially when you don't have the necessarily athletic ability to recover. That's the one thing that Ron Darby has in his favor, is that he has the speed to recover if he misses you at the line of scrimmage with the jam. Or if you happen to get him on a double move, he's going to be faster than a lot of receivers. He's faster, or as fast as Julio, faster than Mike Evans. So even if those guys beat him on a double move, he has the ability to catch up. And that's something that Jalen just physically lacks. But he's always been able to make up for that with his toughness, with his smarts, his intelligence, his ability to understand what routes are going to come against him.
The football IQ is amazing.
His football IQ is there, and that's what it will allow you to play in this league for a long time. Just right now, he needs to get back to having that swagger and that confidence that he played with last year.
I know we're not accustomed to doing these post-game shows like this coming off a loss, but you think, go back to last season, look, week 2, it was in Kansas City, another red-themed stadium.
Yep.
The Eagles went up against a high-octane offense in Kansas City, which was flying at the time with Kareem Hunt and Alex Smith as a trigger man and Tyreek Hill and all of them. And
Travis Kelce.
Of course, forget about him as well. So certainly it happened last year, and the Eagles were able to bounce back, and they had that amazing win against the New York Giants, which kind of catapulted this season from there. They're going to need to find that magic again as the Indianapolis Colts will come to town. Indianapolis beating Washington, so hurting division rivals there.
That's a big win.
It's a huge win for them because the Colts are trying to find themselves as Frank Reich has taken over as the head coach. Andrew Luck is back in the saddle. They're trying to get their identity on both sides of the ball really, and trying to figure out what kind of team they have. They're kind of in that 2016 Eagles mode when Doug Pederson took over. Yeah. So the Colts don't mind if they can upset a team here or there along the way. So they're coming in with big expectations. You know Frank Reich is going to want to upset the Eagles coming back to the house here. So
and he knows the personnel.
And he knows exactly.
The personnel on both sides of the ball. He knows the personnel here.
Yes, smart coordinator, knows he's going to come up with a good game plan, and he's going to see this tape and say, if the defense is going to continue to do this, I'm going to utilize my weapons in the same way. And look, the Colts don't have much of a running game themselves. No. They're going to be fine with Andrew Luck chucking the ball all over the field if they have to, if that's what it's going to take to win the football game. So the Eagles are going to have to get things shored up on the defensive side of the ball because the front is there. I love the front. I love the rotation. I love what the new guys have brought to the table. You know, I was really excited when Michael Bennett made a big play there in the second half during the comeback because you're looking to see who's going to continue to set the tone, who's going to continue to fight, who's not going to give up, because that championship mentality is going to be when the times get tough, when you're facing adversity for the first time. This team has not faced a lot of adversity. They've overcome injuries, but the thing is they have not had to deal with a lot of losses on the football field and how to bounce back from that. Now that these guys, and some of these are new guys, okay, everyone's going to say, well, we have the culture in place, but the culture is all about the guys who are there presently, and if you're adding new people to the mix, it's going to change up the chemistry no matter what. You're going to have your leaders, you're going to have your core guys, but those new guys need to step up to the table. They need to come through in a big way, and that's what's happening. You're seeing guys who are coming in and making big plays like that. So seeing Michael Bennett do that in the second half was very encouraging to see. Seeing the team as a whole fight and making sure that they're going to be down 27-7, but they're going to make this a ball game. Okay, they may not come back and win, and they fell 6 points short today, losing 27-21, but they're going to come back and give the Bucs everything they have and say, you're going to need to fight until all 60 minutes to make sure you win this ball game, okay? You're not going to be able to walk out of here and have your fans chanting and laughing at the Eagles as they're going off the field, losing by 20 points at the end of the game. You're going to sweat it out and say to yourselves, all right, you got a quality win, but we made you earn it for all 60 minutes. You have to know that when you're playing the Eagles that's going to be the case, and that's good to see because, again, this team has not had to overcome certain types of adversity a lot in the last year. Again, they lost week 2, okay, to the Chiefs last year. They didn't lose again until early December in Seattle.
Right.
And then they had to flip things right away because they had to go to L.A. with a chance to clinch the division and possibly everything go into a free-for-all if they don't win that game from a home field advantage standpoint. And then they lose Carson Wentz, so you kind of are galvanizing behind Nick Foles to see what he can do, and you carry yourself just enough to get home field advantage, and you run that into the playoffs. Sure, you lose that regular season finale to Dallas, but you had Nate Sudfeld and primarily the backups finishing up that game. You don't count that game. So again, from a losing standpoint, this is a team that's lost week 2 of last season and early December. That's it. Yeah. So that's something that this team doesn't want to get accustomed to, but you need to find out how the guys are going to react when that happens. Are the guys going to all be back here in the building first thing Monday, going over the tape and being energized and coming into work like you would after a victory? After a victory, everyone's bouncing around the building, everyone's walking on cloud 9, everyone's excited, you're putting in the extra work. Are you going to do that after a loss? What was very encouraging going back to last week after the win over Atlanta, Zach Ertz, who's tried and tested and comes through in the clutch, seems like every single week for this football team, had some uncharacteristic drops for the Eagles in that win over Atlanta. He got himself on that jugs machine as soon as he could to make sure that didn't happen again, and he had 11 catches to the Ike, okay? He actually set a franchise record for the most games with double-digit receptions. It was his 6th career outing with such an effort. So 13 targets, 11 receptions for him, 94 yards. He was the safety valve for that offense, coming through with some big catches, those ones that you're used to seeing him make time and time again, being that best friend for a quarterback over the middle of the field, and even providing the big plays. I mean, he had the one big play down the sideline to ignite the offense there. So late in the first half, I believe it was. So overall, you saw Zach Ertz step up to the plate, but you just need that. Who's that other playmaker going to be in this offense?
I'll tell you the other thing I take away from this game and really early in the season. This loss does not concern me. Bill Belichick said something a couple years ago when talking about his team, and they had gotten off to a little bit of a struggle. It may have been last year when they got off to a 2-2 start and only lost one more game the rest of the way. He said, there's no team who has established their identity the first 4 weeks of the season.
No.
These coaches, they rarely play their first teamers in the preseason. So really the first month of the season is an extended preseason because these guys are just getting used to playing a full game. Being out there for 60, 65 plays on either side of the ball, it's the first time for them. So, and when you look at a team like the Eagles, who had turnover in the offseason, when you look at personnel, they're still trying to form their identity. And C-Mac, in training camp, Doug didn't have these guys at his disposal. There were certain guys that were missing practice because they were banged up for whatever reason, and they are still trying to put together an identity for this team. And so it may take It may take another game or two. You hope you pull out wins despite that. But as far as playing a flawless game, as far as playing a clean game, as far as establishing who you are and what you're going to be for this season. Last year was last year. You're not the same team as you were last year. This is a new team. The identity for this team hasn't been established just yet. They're 1-1 through the first 2 weeks. You play at home next week. Take care of your business at home before you go on the road to Tennessee in 2 weeks. What you can't do is give away games. You can't dig yourself in a hole early in the season to whereas when you do find your identity, it's too late. So you got to be able to put some wins together. That's the thing they were able to do last year. You talk about the loss after the Kansas City game. Well, we almost gave away the Giants game the following week. And if Jake Elliott doesn't hit the 61-yard field goal, we're headed to overtime, and who knows what happens.
Exactly, and the season could be a different story. So let's hear from the quarterback now, Nick Foles, down in Tampa.
Big questions for Nick. You get a lot of, you've come with some injuries in the last years around the game, and some penalties. Is it hard just kind of cut the film? You guys were just battling, working up the whole entire time?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is, we can't shoot ourselves in the foot with penalties. But, looking back, obviously we'll look at the film and grow. But I think the thing that I take from this game is, how hard our team fought. I mean, Tampa Bay played a tremendous game. They fought, obviously, extremely hard as well. But, there's a lot of adversity in this game. This NFL is tough. Playing football it's not an easy game. But I was really proud of my teammates and the coaches for fighting, throughout all the adversity, even the mistakes we did make. We never once turned on one another. We never put our heads down. We kept our heads up. We kept fighting. We kept looking at the pictures, trying to, fix what's going on. And, that's what we'll continue to do. That's what this organization's done. And we will keep going.
Nick, how tough is it on offense to move the ball, kind of get the rhythm when you guys had a lot of injuries? Alshon's not out there, Darren's not out there, Jay's coming in and out, same with Jason, and then you lose Mike Wallace as well. I mean, you lost like half your offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the adversity I talk about. It's something that, you keep working. Guys step up all the time. And, that's what we did. We gave ourselves as a team an opportunity to win this game. And that's what, that's the only thing you can do in this league. Obviously, we want everyone healthy, but, that's not really the case sometimes. This is a physical sport. Things happen. So that's where the next guy has to come in and do his job to the best of his ability. And I thought our guys stepped up today. We gave ourselves the opportunity to win. We have to clean up a lot of the penalties and execution errors, but, we will continue to do that.
How much harder does it make life on you when you don't have those top guys?
I mean, it's my job. I've been there. I've played this game a long time. I mean, you're not always going to have everyone healthy. That's just part of this game. So, I don't really focus on that. I focus on, going out there, stepping in the huddle. Whoever's in that huddle, I trust them. We got to get the job done. And, there was a lot of guys that were injured this game. There's a lot of guys that got banged up, but we kept fighting, and that's what I'm going to focus on.
What was the information you got?
I didn't get an explanation. They made the best decision. It was probably just not enough to overturn. I felt, when I was throwing it, my arm was going forward, but, watching on the screen, right when my arm's going forward, the ball starts, comes out weird. That happens when you're getting hit from behind. But at the end of the day, you have to keep moving forward. They called the call, and, that's it. We keep moving forward, we keep fighting.
On the 4th and 4 in the third quarter, what could have, or should have been better?
The 4th and 4, like just in.
Yeah, is it,
Just in general, or
was that play you wanted there? Did you put it where you
yeah. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, we've converted a lot of those. Anytime Doug calls a play, we want to go for it. We want to be aggressive. That's just the one, that we weren't able to, get the first down. We were probably a couple inches short, and I have all the confidence in the world in Zach. That's why I went there. We just missed that one. Obviously that's a big blow, but at the end of the day, I don't second guess anything. Play comes in, we're going to execute it. That one didn't work out, but you give me that play again, I'm going there again. I have all the confidence in Zach, and we're going to get those plays. We have historically, and we're going to continue to be aggressive. And I'm going to continue to trust my teammates. I'm going to always trust my coaches, and it just didn't work out that time.
On the 4th and 10, it looked like Zach kind of got open on the corner out to the right side. Did you happen to see that in pictures after that series? And if so, what is the progression on that play?
Yeah, that's something I have to go look back. I mean, that was a physical game. There's a lot going on. It's hard to just pinpoint a play, but I'll go back, I'll look at it, and see what I see.
Were you able to get the ball out as quickly as you
Just in general.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of times you were looking at second and third.
I mean, you playing football. You know, I thought their defense did a really, really good job of, mixing things up. Keeping us on our heels, showing us different things. And I thought, at the end of the day, you're not always going to go to your first guy. You got to go through your progressions. There were times where I did have to go through my progressions, which I do throughout each game. And but I felt good. I felt like when you look back at this game, it's just about the fight and just continuing to go through the adversity, through everything that's going on, just continue to fight.
Did Nelson show you even more today about his toughness and
No, I already knew that. He didn't need to show me that. I know that there's never a doubt in his toughness. He just reiterates who he is. He's a guy he's a tough player. He takes hits. He continues to go. And that's just who he is. So he didn't need to prove me anything.
And if this does turn out to be your last start, is it easier to kind of just flip the role, McCarthy, and go back to who he used to be doing?
Whatever the organization, the team asks for me, I'm going to do. Obviously, stepping in the huddle and playing the game, is something that, I love. And, it's a crazy sport. But at the end of the day, I'm going to focus right now on, cleaning up this Tampa Bay. But whatever the team asks for me, anytime I'm going to be there. And I'm going to help in any way possible. Who knows what will happen.
How about your emotions related to this game? You say it's a crazy game, lots of ups and downs, but what are kind of thoughts and feelings right now?
Just from the game or just like everything?
Just from the potential of Carson's.
I'm really not focused on that right now. That was a physical game. There was a lot. We gave everything we had. Tampa Bay gave everything they had. So I'm going to focus on that, live in the moment. I'm grateful and blessed to have played this game for as long as I have. So, I'll go back on the bus, go home, see my wife, see my daughter, see my dog, focus on that. That's something I got to make sure I say my dog. He gets angry when I don't mention him. But that's what I focus on. And I keep going. Whatever the team needs of me, I want to do and help in any way possible.
You said they did a pretty good job of mixing things up on you. Were there any situations where you felt like they were put in place they wanted to get out of? Maybe in retrospect you would have wanted to get audible out of them, or
No.
make the right calls?
No, I think that, that's just the game. I felt like you just have to, sometimes they were moving after the snap, and I thought they did a good job mixing up their coverages. But at the end of the day, that's where we execute. And, we gave ourselves a chance to win the game. The NFL is not easy. Our team, we stuck together, and that's what I will focus on. You're not always, you want to win every single game. I look at this, and guys gave everything they had this game. It just didn't turn out the way we wanted it to. But, we'll continue to build on this. We'll continue to lean on each other like we always have. We didn't win every single game last year. I think people forget that. There's a lot of expectations for us, and, we can't put that pressure on ourselves because we always talk about the family. The Philadelphia Eagles, it's a family, and we have to focus on that.
It took long, sustained drives for you guys to score tough conversions. How do you get the big plays going?
You just have to keep going. I mean, they happen. I mean, we had some big plays today. We had some things downfield, and they weren't necessarily how you draw them up. And that's the game of football. You can't force the big plays. You just have to continue to play.
Good time for a couple more.
Nick, what do you remember last year you guys lost to Kansas City, and then you guys reeled off 6 or 7 wins after. What do you remember about kind of what that week was like coming off that first loss?
I think anytime you lose, it's not easy because you give everything you have. But it's just, keeping a positive mindset, sticking together, getting ready to, go out there, the next day we're out there at practice or whatever meetings and being, critical on, when we watch this film, being critical of ourselves, but not to the point where you start, worrying in a sense. Like you need to learn and then go out there on the practice field and just focus on the practice and keep going and improving on, what we saw from this week. We need to improve on those things. I think the big thing going into this next week is, we can't have these penalties. I think getting behind the chains, that's not something that we have done. We put ourselves in a bad position early in the game. So cleaning that up, that's something that we'll focus on. But, that's what we do. That's what we did last year. That's who we are. Our coaches are going to, coach us. We're going to go out there and play.
Is there a play or throw that's really going to bother you?
I can't really, I wish the one to Zach in the red zone, is like 6 inches shorter. But at the end of the day, we scored a couple plays later. So I look back, you can never second guess yourself in this game. It's not, you have to go out there and you have to give everything you have. And you have to lean on each other. And, I felt like we did that today. I sound like a broken record because I go back to that, but that's the only way I know how to play this game. So we'll go back. We're going to look at this film. We're going to improve, and we're going to do what we do. We're going to go out there and have fun and play with a lot of energy. So,
Okay, thanks, guys.
thank y'all.
All right, there's Nick Foles speaking to reporters at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. Look, he threw for 334 yards and a touchdown, okay? I mean, he did everything he could to bring the Eagles within a victory. 6 points short. I mean, he did his part. Everyone's probably thinking if Carson Wentz is in there, it's magically different. You know, you have to give Carson some time because we don't know what he's going to be able to do right off the jump. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, Doug Pederson, our one-on-one interview conducted by Hall of Fame wide receiver Mike Quick after they wrapped up the press conference a short time ago. Let's hear what the coach had to say in this interview.
Coach, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is respect your opponents. And with that in mind, talk a little bit about this Tampa Bay team and what they possessed.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, we saw it in week 1 against New Orleans, the firepower that they had on offense, obviously, and then defensively, the type of personnel that they have. They have a really good front.
Yeah.
It's an aggressive group. They're a downhill, fast-flowing defense. A little nicked up in the back end, but you know what? They put pressure on the quarterback, and that's what they pride themselves on. And you know, it's something that I try to talk to our team a lot about is you know, we're going to get everybody's best every single week.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. First of all, this is the National Football League, and everybody plays hard every week. But when you're the team that everybody's looking at, we need to play like it. And I felt like today we did too many things that allowed us not to play the type of football that we're used to playing.
You mentioned them being nicked up. Your team a little bit nicked up too. Now, how did that affect you in adjusting for Jason Peters, for Mike Wallace, and all the injuries that you had?
Yeah, it started with JP, you know, early in the football game, and then of course, you know, you're down now to you know Big V, which is great. We don't lose anything with that transition. But Mike Wallace went down early in the game, and now it really began to shuffle because we were down already with Alshon being out and Sproles being out, and you know, so we had to really shuffle some things around, but try to keep it as consistent as we can. We got some young receivers that are playing, and so we offensively wanted to make sure that they stayed in their right positions, and we shuffled the tight ends just a little bit.
Talking about the young guys, Josh Perkins, he came up pretty big, had some big catches, especially down the stretch. Talk about his contribution a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're blessed with 3 really good tight ends, quite honestly, in Zach and Dallas and Josh. And Josh is a player that, like Dallas, we want to get in the mix, we want to get in the game and get them into the flow. And he did some nice things today. And you know, we'll just keep him coming, keep Dallas coming. And I think for us it can be an advantage. You know, whether we use them all at one time or use them in different personnel packages. So I was real pleased from the tight end position.
But when you look at the depleted receiving core, Mike goes down, you already don't have Alshon, it has to put you at a disadvantage, even as a play caller.
I mean, it does, but you know what? I don't. Even as a play caller, I still try to stay aggressive. I still try to, shoot the ball down the field. I'm still trying to put it in our in Zach's hands. Try to put it in Nelson Aguilar's hands. Run the football a little bit. Jay obviously again was him and Wendell, Corey mixing it up in the run game, the screen game. So it's just a matter of finding the right combination throughout the ball game that we can stick with and give ourselves a chance.
You're staying aggressive. Also get you in those fourth down situations where you're going to go for it on fourth down, and that's just your philosophy.
It is, and today obviously, a couple of fourth downs were towards the end of the game, and they were kind of got-to-have-it situations, and the 4th and 10 is a tough one to get, but felt like in order for us to get back in this football game, I was going to do that, and we came up short on a couple, but I'm going to maintain that aggressiveness. I'm going to make sure that our players understand that, and we got to do better on first and second down and third down to stay out of fourth and long. So it goes a little hand in hand.
One last thing, Coach. You know that this is a big play offense. The Tampa Bay Bucks. How big were the 2 touchdowns? The first one to Jackson, and then the other one to the tight end Howard.
They're big. They're big. Those are things we talk about all week. Try to eliminate the big play, and then offensively try to create the big play. And it happened again today, and we just got to continue to study, continue to figure out why. A lot of football left, a lot of season left. We were in this situation a year ago, 1-1. So I'm excited about what's ahead of us, and looking forward to getting to work.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck next week.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much, Mike and Doug. Now we got plenty more coming up here on the postgame show presented by Ricoh, including the Ricoh review provided by Greg Cosell and Fran Duffy. That's going to come after this break. However, if you're following us on Facebook or Twitter, you need to come on over to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the app to watch the rest of the show. We'll give you a few minutes to get situated.